Good evening. My name is Mrinal Dhar. I am the co-founder of Pinakha Transformations and the creator of the Brain Self, the framework which explains how brain creates mind. Your whole life, the whole world you experience is inside the three engines of this framework of self. Emotional engine is not really only about emotions. Emotions are the outcome. Emotional engine is the engine which has all your selves. All your selves are created inside the emotional engine. Your emotional engine is weaving and create the stories of all yourselves. That is where you are born. So, if I have to take my own example, so the first self will be cognitive neuroscientist, a cognitive neuro coach. The second self is I am a son to an aging mother. My fourth self will be I am a spiritualist who is a devotee of Bhagwan Ma Anandamai. Okay. Now, in this emotional engine, for all these cells, my emotional engine is creating its stories, all the emotions related to these cells. Within every self, there is a story running. And for every story, I am getting some positive emotion and I am not getting some positive emotion. That means for every story there is a source for a positive emotion and there is absence of a source for a positive emotion. Now, wherever the sources are absent, your emotional engine shrinks. So you start feeling emotionally vulnerable, emotionally weak, emotionally inadequate, emotionally detached. You are not able to connect emotionally with things. So that's it for me. That's like all the emotional stories are now creating a single emotional story of your single whole self in the emotional engine. So it's called neural binding in neuroscience. Now, how do I carry out an intervention with you in your emotional engine? I use the language of the brain. Now, language of the brain is not English. Language of the brain is the language in which the brain creates these cells and their emotional story. All right. So you need to have an intervention in that language to unravel the stories of all your cells so that you know from which cell, which story is giving a very positive impetus to the whole engine. So emotional engine, now if you think a little harder, emotional engine is the creator of your agency. Your agency is created inside the emotional engine. The owner of your life, the destiny maker of your life, the one who is deciding the fate and the actions and the behaviors is created in the emotional engine. If the emotional engine is weak, your agency is going to be weak also. So the emotional engine is where you are born. That's where you are born. That's where your agency is born. All right. So that's step one. Now just go from one position to another position. These choices, emotional choices, are made by the owner, the agency. So more powerful, more developed the agency, easier it becomes for it to make the choices and to choose. Okay. So this process of choosing is your second engine. Your second engine is called the cognitive engine. It is in the cognitive engine that the emotional engine starts choosing. In the cognitive engine, your intelligence, your cognitive agility is born. So in cognitive engine, life becomes three-dimensional. In cognitive engine, if I have to talk technically, verticality schema gets added. So from in emotional engine, it's length and breadth. In cognitive engine, it is length, breadth, and height. You, your world becomes 3D. And that's where subjective experience becomes extremely powerful. You experience everything subjectively. Meaning making happens. You apply intelligence to find meaning in things. You apply philosophy. You apply your practical values and beliefs. And that's where we have to work on your intelligence and cognitive agility. So that's a cognitive agility. Once your brain has taken you from emotional engine to your cognitive engine, your life becomes very complex. Now, the problem is each cell you have five separate cognitive engines. In our training program, we go to the next most important engine because that is where you experience for the first time free will, and that engine is perception engine. Perception engine is where we go into your brain, into your mind, where we use the language of the brain and open up the topal map of the world inside you. Topographical map, which means, in simple words, I go into your mind, I use the language of the brain, and I find out your life currently is an Amazon jungle. I go to another person called Shruti. I use the language of the brain and I find out what is the topographical map of her life, and it turns out to be a cosmopolitan city with a lot of traffic jams and with a lot of concrete buildings and no greenery. I go to the third person called Rohit, and I apply the language of the brain and I open the topographical map of the world he is experiencing because of the two engines, the emotional engine and the cognitive engine, and out his life is the battle of Troy. His life is nothing but two armies fighting it out every day. Three different topographical maps. Now, based on your topographical map, using the language of the brain, we are able to experience free will to decide what kind of topographical map I want, number one. If I want the same topographical map, what changes I want to make. Because the brain is freed now. Once the brain is freed because we are using the language of the brain, immediately, it is able to decide what changes it. If you are leading a team, if you as a leader, as a manager are leading a team, or if you are leading a team during a challenging scenario, or you don't want uncertainty while leading a team, you want to predict behavior. You want to know how this person is going to behave in the next 6 months. What is going to be the learning curve, and what is going to be the behavioral curve and the emotional curve and the cognitive curve. And you want to have a certainty. You want to predict it correctly. You want to have a control, a positive control that will enable collaboration, that will enable a sort of learning and a sort of connect, a rapport, okay, where two people are working together. If you want that, this is the training program for you, which we are going to roll out very soon. If, as a coach, you have come across difficult clients, even the person who is most inhibited or who's a little and stubborn or who's not, very open and communicative, everybody opens up in the emotional engine because we are talking about their multiple selves using the language of the brain. What is the purpose of the language of the brain? It frees you. It takes away all the inhibition. It takes away all the guilt. It frees the mind and gives it complete freedom to allow itself to speak for itself. All right. So thank you very much, and you have a good evening.